This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is the 29th of May already, 2025, here at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios, and we're so glad you could join us. Coming up a little later on in the program, we'll talk with Jason Meyer of agmarket.net to find out what's happening in the markets today. But first, we're going to talk with Geoff Cooper, President and CEO of the Renewable Fuels Association. We caught up with him in Washington, D.C., and talked to him about the latest state of where things are with RVOs, E15, and much more. All right, so we've got a lot of things going on with ethanol and renewable fuels, and let's start with the latest announcement with the summer season, the driving season they're calling it, the waiver to get E15. Now in Iowa, we haven't had to worry about that this year, but obviously Iowa delegation is still working hard to try to get something permanent for the country.
That's right.
We got to get that message across. Is that message finding more reception right now in this administration?
It is. That message is resonating. I think this administration understands the importance of having year-round access to E15. That's why they were so quick to deliver that emergency waiver. And in fact, it was on day one of the Trump presidency in an executive order. He signaled again on day one that if Congress didn't have this figured out by summertime, he was going to direct EPA to issue emergency waivers. So that's where we're at today. EPA did issue those waivers. That's great news. But man, we got to get this thing solved permanently. And the only way to do that is through legislation. There is broad support for getting this bill done in Congress. It's bipartisan support. It's supported both chambers. The problem has been there's really been no legislative vehicles. There's been a lack of opportunities to move that legislation. But any and every opportunity that comes along, we're going to be looking hard at getting that legislation done.
And, you know, if we're looking for a vehicle, I mean, is there any urge of the Congress to just do it on its own? I mean, in a situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly been that conversation. We think it's unlikely that that's going to be an option. It's a 2.5-page bill, and you know, Congress typically likes to bundle these things together into bigger packages. We've sort of always known that this legislation isn't going to move by itself. It's going to need to be part of a larger must-pass piece of legislation. So that's kind of what we're looking at. You know, we're looking at every crack in the door as one we're going to try and jam our foot into.
Well, and especially how close we got the 11th hour last year to get close and come short. I mean, obviously you said there's support there, so you feel like it's going to be, if they can find that vehicle, do you think it's going to be something that'll hiccup? I suppose it all depends on what else is on that vehicle, right?
That's right, but we have heard commitments from leadership in both chambers, and again, both sides of the aisle that yes, the next opportunity that comes along to attach this legislation, it's going to be part of it. We've heard that from Speaker Johnson. We've heard it from Leader Thune. We've heard it from the Democratic, leadership on that side of the aisle. So it's just a matter of finding that right opportunity, that right vehicle.
All right. So then, switching gears to those three letters we've been hearing a lot lately, RVO. Obviously, we know EPA, new administration is going to take a few minutes to get itself going again, and all the new people back in place. But what are we looking at for that situation? There's so much optimism, but it's just been a waiting game, it seems like.
It has been. We should have had 2026 RVOs finalized at the end of October of last year. Obviously, that didn't happen. The Biden administration left town without even proposing those rules. So it's fallen to the Trump EPA and Administrator Zeldin to get those volumes published. We are expecting to see a proposed rule in the next couple of weeks that would have the volumes for both 2026 and 2027, and potentially 2028. We'll have to wait and see. But we've had some very good, positive, encouraging conversations with EPA and others in the administration about the upcoming RVOs and about the volumes that our industry would like to see. So we're optimistic that we're going to see a good RVO proposal here in the next few weeks.
Okay. Moving on to trade. Obviously, when we talk about trade, we always think about corn, beans, cattle, hogs, in Iowa. But obviously, biggest ethanol producing state, we got to worry about those exports as well. What's the situation? How is that affecting you guys right now?
Well, exports have become a very important segment of our demand picture in ethanol. We had a record volume of ethanol exports last year. about 2 billion gallons, 12% of what we produced. So it's become hugely important, and so we are very anxiously and kind of uneasily watching some of the conversations around tariffs, around retaliatory measures. The last thing we want to see is any backward movement on our export demand. Canada, for example, is our top export market. Obviously, there's been some real tension with Canada in recent months around trade. The last thing we want to see is Canada or India or Brazil or anybody slapping a retaliatory tariff on U.S. ethanol right at a time where we really need not just to maintain those markets, but to grow those markets and provide new opportunities.
All right, and I guess the last thing I want to touch on, when we talked in 2024 at the Iowa Fuel Summit, we talked about 45Z. Then Secretary Vilsack was talking about how he wanted to get it done that year. Here we are a year, almost a half later, and we still haven't gotten any further.
That's right.
Or at least there's not much more clarification. Have you heard anything on what the administration with Zeldin would like to do with this? Right.
Well, I think the Treasury is sort of waiting for the dust to settle with the budget reconciliation conversation in Congress. It isn't, Treasury, it isn't clear when they're going to take the next step on 45Z, or even if they're going to take the next step. I think they're waiting on the possibility of some reforms, some legislative reforms to the 45Z program and other Inflation Reduction Act, programs. So I think we'll know in the next few weeks kind of what the direction looks like for 45Z, and Treasury will too, and I think that may lead them to figure out what their next steps on that program are. But you're right, we don't even have a proposed rule on that tax credit, which means we're a long way from having any kind of final regulations, and that's just more uncertainty and instability in our marketplace.
Have you heard of any proposed changes that could be coming to that rule that you guys are keeping an eye on or listening for that might actually happen in this bill?
There's a lot of discussion, a lot of ideas, a lot of concepts being floated right now. I know one thing that most lawmakers agree on is a 3-year duration is not nearly enough for 45Z. If that program is truly going to drive the growth that it was intended to, you need a longer term. It needs to be 7 or 10 years. And so there's been some bills introduced to extend the duration of 45Z. And again, we think that would be necessary if that program is to deliver on its potential.
All right. Well, is there anything else those Iowa producers need to know here as we wrap up today?
Well, just overall, even with all this uncertainty and turmoil in the marketplace, we see an enormously bright future for ethanol. If we can finally crack, bust that door down on year-round E15, keep growing our export market, get some clarity on some of the tax policy, we think the future is very bright for ethanol.
That again was Renewable Fuels Association President and CEO Geoff Cooper. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we'll talk with the folks at agmarket.net. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. We're back on Ag Matters PM here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and time to talk with Jason Meyer of agmarket.net here at the end of the closing of the trading day. And Jason, we'll start off in the grains. What did we see come out of those corn and soybeans today?
The market started the overnight and day session a little bit lower. I think the overall theme right now, the weather forecast for the next 2 weeks is not threatening at all. They're putting a little bit more moisture into the forecast for June, and hopefully we see a return of heat, and heat is just what these crops need. Then you talk about the southern hemisphere, the Brazilian safrinha, our second corn crop. It seems like every day we hear from an analyst that crop is getting bigger, so that's putting some pressure on the U.S. corn market as well.
And so just asking, in your area there in northwest Iowa, what kind of things are you seeing? We've been hearing some reports of yellow corn and some spots up there. Is that kind of what you're seeing and kind of what the market's been watching out for? Is non-threatening at the moment?
Yeah, definitely up here in northwest Iowa, we need some heat. Thankfully, we've gotten some moisture in the last 2 weeks here. So that's not an issue at the moment. But just the lack of heat and cold temperatures has definitely caused the crop to slow down in its growth here.
All right. Outside of the weather market, anything else really affecting it? I know there was some news that some tariffs, we're going to get postponed a little bit on EU, things like that. Anything more come of that, or is it just kind of a weather market right now in the plainest and simplest terms?
Yeah, I think to add more intrigue and mystery to the grain markets, there was 3 judges, like the International Trade Court in Manhattan. So last night they said what Trump was doing on tariffs, he didn't really have the authority. So they're saying he's got 10 days to rescind all the tariffs that he's put on. And that's created a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace. And I think when it comes to the egg space, tariffs is actually a good thing because a lot of countries run a negative trade balance with the U.S. And we're seeing some of these countries in the past 3 months actually maybe buying some more commodities, egg commodities from the U.S. to try to get in front of potential tariffs that are coming their way. So regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on, I think having President Trump not have the ability to issue tariffs is a detriment to the egg industry in general.
All right, and let's move over to the livestock side of things. I know cattle had a rough day yesterday. Hogs were doing all right. Did that continue today, or what did we see out of the livestock?
Well, the cattle market had a nice day today. I think we saw what happened on Tuesday with the Mexican screwworm supposedly being found in Missouri. Now, the people that put out that story took it back, so there's no screwworm in the U.S. or in the U.S. or in Missouri specifically. So I think the market had just a nice day, just recovering. We're still not above Tuesday's highs, but just nice recovery. And the hog market, we saw some good technical buying coming in yesterday, but today we just kind of fell flat and finished today a little bit lower here.
All right, Jason. Well, if folks want to talk about some of their market strategies, look at what they might be needing to think about here with the 25 crop, if they haven't got all their plans finalized yet, what's the best way for them to get in touch with the folks at agmarket.net?
Check us out at agmarket.net and give myself or one of my teammates a call, and we'd be more than happy to chat with you and figure out a marketing plan.
All right. Well, Jason, thanks so much for the insight here today, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks, Dustin. Everybody have a good day now.
And that again was Jason Meyer of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at the closing numbers. You can find those at iowaagnet.com under the market screen. At the close, July corn was down 4 at $4.47 even. Soybeans up 3 1/4 at $10.51 3/4. Soy meal up $2.70 at $2.9640. Soy oil down 54 cents at $48.39. Chicago wheat up 3 3/4 at $5.34 even. Kansas wheat up 6 1/2 at $5.31 3/4. Minneapolis spring wheat up 12 1/4 at $6.15 1/2. Oats up 5 1/2 at $3.75 1/2. On the Merc live cattle up $1.60 at $215.52. Feeders up $4.30 at $299.92. Lean hogs down 25 cents at $100.02. Pork cutouts unchanged at $105.67. Class 3 milk down 19 cents at $19.16. And that brings us to the end of our market recap and the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com as well as on Facebook, X, and our YouTube channel. Make sure you're there to subscribe and hit the bell icon, and you can get notified each time we put out a new video project. Also, don't forget about the free market analysis sent right to your mobile device through the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network Market Podcast. You can also get replays of Iowa Ag Matters, Weekend Ag Matters, and much more. Again, all of that online at iowaagnet.com, or where you find your favorite Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network podcasts. From the iAron Studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Hoffman. For Andy Peterson, Miley Smith, and Mark Magnuson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.